March 11th, 2021. From El Cajon in San Diego, California, this is episode 228 of You Can Bet on That. Hi, everybody. Welcome to You Can Bet on That, a podcast for the recreational gambler. My name is Mark Duvall, and sitting safely at his home is Dr. Mike.
Hello.
All right, first off, let's talk about the poker tournament because it's coming up this weekend, this Sunday. So we want to make sure everybody's on board. It's going to be 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific this Sunday, March 14th. It's Selection Sunday for March Madness. It's also the beginning of daylight saving time, so be sure to change your clocks or you'll be an hour late. Now, if you're already registered for the tournament and you show up late, that's fine. You'll just have lost blinds and antes until you arrive, but you can still play once you get there. However, if you haven't already registered for the tournament, don't forget about the time change because you might get shut out. We actually have a 20-minute grace period after the tournament starts when you can still register and join. But remember, that'll be 1:20 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So we hope everybody who wants to play is able to get in there in time. Don't forget also, you'll need 20,000 in play money chips to register for the tournament. PokerStars gives you 15,000 chips every 4 hours if you click on the free chips button on their homepage. So do that at least twice and you'll have enough to join. Now, unlike our last tournament, this tournament will have breaks. My understanding is that there is a break every hour. When I created the tournament, there was just an option for yes or no on breaks. There was no additional information, but one of our home game players said it's once an hour. So based on that, I was trying to remember, Mike, our last tournament, how long did it go? Was it like 4 hours?
Yeah, something like that.
So with the breaks, and I'm sure we're going to have more people this time as well, figure 4 hours minimum, maybe even longer than that. Again, we're going to be giving away prizes, a $100 Amazon gift card for first place, $50 for second place, $25 for third place, and $25 each for eliminating Dr. Mike, me, and Tim Lawson, who's putting up his own money to give you a gift card if you knock him out. And also, thanks to a generous donation from listener Judge Dave, everyone at the final table will get a little something. 4th through 6th place will get a $15 gift card, and 7th through 9th place will get a $10 gift card. So that's nice. Thanks, Judge Dave.
Very nice. Yes.
Also, don't forget, if you make a royal flush sometime during the tournament using at least one of your hole cards, Travel Fanboy will send you a $50 gift card. And one last thing, if you're registered for the tournament and it ends up you can't play, please unregister. Otherwise, you'll be taking up a spot on the table and you'll just be blinded off. And it actually affects the play of people who are there, right? Every time you're in a blind, if you're not at the table, well, somebody on the button will take advantage of that, and they'll raise when maybe they wouldn't because they know you're not there and your hand will get folded. So again, just if you can't play, be sure to unregister. Is there anything else I'm forgetting, Mike?
No, I don't think so. Just once again, don't forget daylight savings time.
Yeah, looking forward to it. So very exciting. Again, I think we're going to have more people this time. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. So hope to see you there. Now, on our last episode, we talked about a betting scheme, I guess you could call it, at the craps table called the Marching Soldier. And we actually got quite a lot of good feedback about that. It seemed like something people were really interested in. And in fact, when we went to Harrah's Southern California right after that, at least one listener was there saying, I came to see the Marching Soldier. I wanted to see, if it would happen. And as it turns out, Mike, sure enough, you decided to do the Marching Soldier. Now, this was at a $50 table. So how did that end up going for you? You did it several times. I mean, you started trying to do it several times, right?
I started several times, but only once was it interesting where, it got past like the 5 or 6.
It really started marching, yeah. So this was a $50 table. You had to actually start with a $50 buy bet on the 4.
Correct. And that hit. That paid $100. So now I had $150 to put on a 5, which I did. Oh, and by the way, I was the roller. I was the one shooting the dice.
Oh, I'd forgotten that. That's right. Oh, I remember now. Yeah, that's right.
And that makes the story, that's very critical to the story.
Agreed.
So I had a $150 five, and five came up. So that pays $210. So now I have a total of $360, which I placed on the six. And if I remember correctly, very quickly a six came up.
I think you're right. Yeah.
And that pays $420. So now I have $780 to place on an eight. So I placed the eight, and within a couple of rolls, eight came up.
Yep.
So that pays $910. So that's a total of $1,690 to put on nine.
And everybody's looking at it at this point. They know what's going on. It's like, okay, what's Mike going to do?
I think there were two listeners there. And on our side of the table was me, you, and this other guy named Will, who's a fairly big player. And we were down at the time.
Yes. Yeah, it had gone poorly up to that point.
Yeah, we were all losing. And I looked at you and Will and I said, should I leave $1,690 on a nine? And both of you said, no, that's the stupid thing to do, which, really it is.
I mean, if you're going to ask me that question, I'm going to tell you, you shouldn't do it.
The answer. I was more wondering what Will was going to say because he's a heavy presser. But we were down so much. And since I was rolling the dice, I was in no hurry to decide. And I mulled it over and I thought, you know what? I'm going to collect.
Yeah.
Because I'm down and that gets me close to even.
Yeah.
Not really even, but close enough.
Well, it helps. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So I took $1,490 back and I left $200 on a nine.
Right.
Picked up the dice and rolled a nine. Of course.
You were so mad.
I was so mad. I made the loudest, most objectionable sounds and noises and words that I ever have in my life. And I wasn't mad that a nine came up. I was mad that I was a
Yeah, you had not done it.
I had not done it.
Yeah.
I was so mad at myself. So that would have paid $23.66.
The nine, yeah.
The nine. So you add the $23.66 and the $16.90 I had on there. And it's well above the maximum that you could put on the 10, which would have been $2,500.
Right. So you would have had about $4,000, a little bit more than that at that point. But yeah, the table maximum, even at a $50 table, is $2,500.
Yeah. So I could have put $2,500 on the 10 and still collected the same amount of money I collected, or very close to the same amount of money I collected by pulling it
very
down.
Close. It's interesting. It would have been very close to what you actually took off.
Very close. And actually, I actually made a little more because I left 200 out there, which paid $280. So I collected that.
On the nine, you mean? Oh, yeah, right. When you rolled the nine, right then. Yeah.
When I rolled the nine. So I was so mad at myself. And long story short, the 10 never came up.
Yeah, so there's nothing to feel bad about. You never rolled the 10.
I rolled about two or three more numbers, and I never rolled the 10.
Yeah.
And then sevened out. So all in all, when you do all the math, I actually came out just a teeny bit ahead by pulling it down, virtually the same as it would have been. It was very little ahead after the VIG and everything.
Yeah.
So money-wise, it worked out the same. I was still extremely mad at myself because that's not my nature. I usually would go for it.
Well, you were embarrassed, I think. You were embarrassed.
I was definitely embarrassed, especially when one of the dealers on another table was going on break and walked by me and said, "Quit being a Mike." So I was so mad. It's funny because in reality, it all worked out the same. But why I didn't continue through with that, I tried it a few more times during the night, and I don't think I ever got past a six.
No. And in fact, I took your advice, and I actually tipped the dealers that way. I started, with $5, and the furthest they ever got was a bet on the six when I was tipping for them. And in fact, it was $36. I said to them, okay, do you want to take it down or do you want to put all of it on the six? And I think Wendy was there. I think she said, well, take back $6. So they took $6 off it and left 30 there. And then it was 7 out. So at least they got $6 out of it.
And there was one other time where you made the bet for him. And when the number came up, it was like a 5 came up and you forgot that you had that for them.
Oh, that's right.
They just collected the money and you never moved it to the 6.
That's right. And you pointed it out to me. I completely missed it.
Yeah. You just forgot. I mean, there was so much going on and they just paid themselves because they didn't know what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
So that's our marching soldier story. And that'll never happen again.
Meaning you're not going to make the bet or what?
No, meaning if I make that bet and I'm going to do it, it's going all.
Oh, you're not going to wuss out. You're going to actually take it the whole way. Okay.
That makes sense. I'm going to take it the whole way, even if I lose money because it's
a matter of pride.
Yeah, grated on me all night.
Yeah. Well, of course, here in California, the craps games have to be based on cards in some way. That's basically just a law that table games have to be based on cards. And at Harrah, Southern California, it's a combination of dice and cards. You roll the dice, and that determines which cards are revealed to represent the roll. So anybody who has met up with us at Harrah, Southern California knows that I've got this set of cards that I've printed up with pictures of dice on them to represent what dice combinations will result in a 7 for the current shooter. So again, the dice translate to cards. So there may be a case where a 7 is really if the roller rolls a 3-6 or a 4-5 or a 1-2. Those are the combinations that actually result in a 7 as the official roll. And so I met with a certain amount of, those are kind of, where'd you get those? Oh, I made them. And you probably roll your eyes every time I take them out now because I keep them.
Yep.
You make me put them away sometimes when things aren't going particularly well.
Well, my problem with them is they're negative because it shows the outs.
Yeah, it's true. I only printed it up that actually shows the bad rolls. So, yeah.
Yeah, you're focusing on the negative instead of the positive.
That's true. So maybe I should just have these huge sheets of paper that show all the good rolls and leave out the 7s.
You should just have 6 cards with each die, a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then just show what will make a winner on the pass.
Oh, like the point, the combinations that will result in the point.
If the point was 4, you'd have, say, a 5 and a 5, which may end up being a hard 4, and a 1 and a 3, which was an easy 4, or something like that.
Okay. All right. I'll think about that. In the meantime, I always have the cards out on the table unless you've insisted that I put them away. And there was one player who came by and looked and it's like, "Oh, where'd you get those?" I said, "Oh, I made them." And he was so excited about it, he asked if he could take pictures of them. So he sat there and went through there are 15 different cards, it turns out, with all the different combinations. So he sat there with his phone and took, a picture of all 15 of them and then went off to some other table and had it right in front of him. Then came back like a few minutes later. Apparently he'd missed one. He had to go through all the cards and find out which one he missed. But I thought it was so funny. It wasn't, could you ever make me a cards like that? Or how do you do it? He just wanted to take the picture. And so he's got it on his phone. He just brings it up on his phone. I thought that was pretty funny.
What I thought was funny is at the end, when he was all done taking the pictures, I thought, is he going to make some cards? And if he is, why does he need pictures of them? I mean, it's not that hard to figure out, right?
It's not that hard. I bet he is going to make cards and then he's going to make a fortune out of selling them.
Yeah, I don't think so.
And then they'll change the law and we'll have real craps and he'll have 100 gross of these things that he can't unload.
Oh, God. Yeah, I don't think he's going to make any money on those cards.
All right. It didn't seem like that was why he was doing it, but I got such a kick out of it because he's going he didn't want to take up too much of my time, so he's going real fast. And of course, COVID, so he's not getting that close.
He's probably going to take him home, show his wife, and she's going to roll over and say, "Shut up and go to sleep."
Yeah. Does that happen a lot to you, Dr. Mike?
That happens every night.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hey, thanks to everyone who's been clicking through our Amazon link. Remember, whenever you're going to buy something through Amazon, please go to our page first, youcanbetonthat.com, and click through our Amazon link towards the top of the page. All right, let's get on to some voicemails. First up is Mike.
Hey, Mark and Dr. Mike. This is Mike from Charlotte, North Carolina. Me and my buddy had a charter to Harrah's Biloxi. Just want to give you a little trip report on that. Going to add to some of the stuff the caller last week had. Definitely Beau, Rivage, and Hard Rock has the most crap tables. I believe they were each had 6. No matter what casino we were in, everything table-wise was 10 to 25 minimums, with I'd say most tables being 15. Not a lot of casinos within walking distance. There'll be a little cluster, like you could walk from Beau to Hard Rock. You can walk from Harrah's to Golden Nugget to Palace. But they have a cool little casino trolley for $6 a day. It just does a loop around to every casino, so that was nice. Drinks are free. Being in North Carolina here, we have to pay for drinks at Harrah's Cherokee. But drinks are free like Vegas. And Biloxi seemed very safe to us. The COVID protocols, very hit or miss depending where you were at. Casinos, masks required, hand washing, sanitized stations, all that, readily available. So when you went to some of the local establishments, bars or restaurants, most seemed to have masks, but we hit a couple spots where it was kind of like COVID didn't exist. Bartenders, no mask, servers, no mask. And then some places, some people working there wore a mask, others did not. So just something for people to think about if you're going to Biloxi here anytime soon. But overall, for the most part, mask casinos, we saw a couple people that were pretty lax on the mask, and security didn't really seem to care. So just a heads up for anyone who's being extra careful at COVID. Biloxi, probably pretty good, but some spots you definitely want to avoid. Other than that, it was a good time. Walked away 3 days, only 200 down, so that was a very successful trip in my eyes. Anyway, put Biloxi on your radar. It's really cool, and me and my buddy definitely want to go back. So keep up the good work.
Thanks. Yeah, Biloxi. I know. Biloxi.
He mentioned that they took a charter there. I wonder what kind of airport they have in Biloxi.
You know, it's probably similar to Laughlin, right? We get these junket offers through Harrah's to fly us to Laughlin. And, you know, they don't have a very big airport, but those charters just fly right in there. So I imagine it's kind of the same, you know, not a huge airport, but.
Yeah. Well, yeah, from North Carolina to Biloxi is not that far. So it must be maybe a little pedal jumper plane that takes them there.
It could be. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like what we get from here to Laughlin. You don't need a huge airport because the plane's not huge.
Right. I'm trying to remember when we took that junket to Elko, Mike. It was a jet, though, right? I mean, it was a full jet plane, right?
Yeah, it was a jet, but I don't think it wasn't a huge jet.
No.
It was one of the smaller, probably had, I'm guessing, 150 passengers, something like that.
Yeah, it was something like that. And that was definitely a small airport, Elko.
Oh, yeah.
But one of these days, folks, Tim Lawson plans on going to Biloxi in April. What do you think of that?
Yeah, well, not for me this April.
All right. Maybe next year. All right, next call.
Hi, guys. Hey, thanks for the show. It's really great. I have a question about dealers down in Vegas. You make it sound like a lot of them don't know what they're doing. And if I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know what to do. So do I trust that the dealers will pay me correctly? Do I have to learn all the payouts on some of these bets? And I want to just go have some fun down in Vegas. Our trip is coming up in April. Thanks a lot, guys, for the show.
Yeah, hopefully we haven't made it sound like, dealers in general don't know what they're doing and that they make a lot of mistakes. And if you're talking about craps in particular, craps dealers are typically the best dealers at the casino, just because it's one of the harder games to deal. So they should know what they're doing. Not that they won't make mistakes, but they definitely know what they're doing. I think when we talk about dealers really not knowing what they're doing, it's more on, say, carnival games, maybe games that dealers don't deal that often. Maybe they're on a rotation where it's blackjack, they have no trouble with that. And pie gow, they have no trouble with that. And then they get to crazy four poker or Mississippi stud or something, and they don't know all the rules. And so maybe there they are a little more likely to mess up.
Right. I would agree with that.
Yeah. So I would say if you're playing craps, don't worry about it. Now, it certainly does help to know all the rules and all the payouts, because shoot, Mike, we catch dealers making mistakes. It's not like it happens all the time, but every once in a while, we'll catch it. And
Yeah,
if we
usually-
didn't know the game, it would stay a mistake.
Yeah, usually they're just going fast.
A lot of times, yes.
And they might, take out a chip that they weren't supposed to, or not put a chip out that they were supposed to.
Yeah.
Something like that.
But for most of the common bets, especially, it's rare that they make mistakes. All right, next call.
Hey guys, short-time listener, just got into the podcast a few weeks ago, but big fan. Wanted to share with you this pretty strange dream I had last night. I was in Vegas at the Palace Station, and I was down to about $60 in my pocket, was walking out, and I saw that they had $5 minimum craps. So I just threw my last 60 on the table, and they gave me chips, but the chips were made out of cloth because for some reason cloth chips hold COVID germs less than clay chips do. It was in the middle of the roll, so I put $15 on the field, and the shooter rolled a 12. I paid triple, and so I left the $15 out there, and the shooter rolled another 12. And so I was sitting pretty. Then the shooter hit the point, and I was betting the pass and the odds and numbers, basically spreading my money out. Roller was doing really well, hitting some numbers, and I was able to press and stuff like that. Was feeling pretty good. And then someone reached under the rail to grab their drink, and instead of their drink, they pulled out a shotgun shell. And the pit freaked out. They made everyone step back away from the table, like 10 feet away. But for some reason, while they were waiting for security to get there, they told us that the chips had to stay where they were, and the shooter and one other guy, like to verify the roll, had to stay at the table and keep shooting. The rest of us were really confused, but the stick man was like goading the shooter to roll the dice, and he did, and we're all craning our necks to see, what he rolled. And I said, what was it? And the guy next to me says, well, of course it's a 7. So we all lose, and we're mad. And I'm thinking that they'll just let us now gather our cloth chips and head to the cage, but they don't let us near the table. Stickman says the game has to continue, and you just tell us where you want us to put your chips. And I was upset, and I said, well, I just want to leave. And they said, well, then you have to wait until security gets here and clears the table because we can't bring your cloth chips to you. And I just thought I'd share that because I think that means that I might miss Vegas just a little bit. Enjoy the show, guys. Keep doing what you're doing, and appreciate everything that you do for us. Thanks.
Yeah, I would say if that ever happens to you in the future, ask to speak to a host. I think Palace Station has a pretty good host situation there. So,
Well, you know what, though? I mean, it's, of course, a dream, and it sounds fantastic. But there's one part of that is based in reality. The part where he said it was a 7 out and everyone was mad.
That's true.
Because that happens like about every 5 minutes at Harrah, Southern California.
That's right. It seems like about once in every 5 rolls, and I know that's not mathematically right, but
it's actually about once in every 3 rolls.
Okay, yeah, that has been
lately. It has been.
I'm sure we both have craps dreams, Mike. What are your craps dreams like?
Oh, mine usually revolve around frustration.
Yes.
I've made a bet and I can't figure out the payout. And they're paying me, and I'm like in my head trying to, no, I don't think that's right. And then I'm trying to figure it out, but I can't quite figure it out. That's a typical craps dream for me.
Mine too. It's like I'm trying to tell the dealers what I want. No, I want to bet here. No, this isn't right. How come this isn't like a regular craps game? What? The layout doesn't look right. Yeah, it's just all frustration.
Yeah, it's as most people's dreams are, just frustration.
All right. Next up is David.
Hey, Dr. Mike and Mark. This is David from Colorado Springs. I am calling from Las Vegas. We are in the penthouse suite over at the Bellagio. My wife and I are celebrating our 10-year anniversary, and since COVID pretty much screwed up all of our plans this year, we decided to do something special, and she suggested we should do this, which is great. So just a quick update. I know that Dr. Mike has been speaking in the past about how he misses all the drunk people in Vegas. Well, I have a story for you because there are no shortages of a-holes that are still walking around here. So we just witnessed downstairs, the wife and I went to the pool, and we had a couple of beers, had a bucket of beers. And, we started getting hungry. We decided that we were going to go to the snack place here in the Bellagio and order, what we typically order for lunch, which is the Turkey Club. We're getting up there, and we see this young person crazily just had to get in front of us. And believe it or not, he was actually pissed that his chicken nuggets that he had just bought, the sauce that they gave him he was complaining that it was ice cold. And he was literally complaining to the woman there about it. She said, well, I don't have a microwave. I can't really warm up the sauce. What am I supposed to do? So he just tells the lady, he says, the food looks good, but it's absolutely disgusting that the sauce is cold. Of course, he's making a scene. He looks like a jerk. And he finally decides that he wants to have pizza instead. And I can see that they're just like looking at each other. So he goes off to the side. I'm joking around with my wife about it. So we ordered the club sandwich and stand to the side. Finally, they gave this guy his stupid pizza. He walks out of there, and sure enough, our order comes up. They give it to us, and I asked the lady jokingly, I said, now, I just want to make sure, is the ketchup ice cold? And they started laughing. So they had a good sense of humor about it. But man, what a crazy scene that was. I mean, who comes up and complains about chicken nuggets, for crying out loud? So my question to you guys is, what's the craziest thing you've ever seen where somebody's a complete jerk and just looks like a jerk and then they don't even realize it? Because this guy obviously had no clue. Also, just a quick update. $10 tables during the day here at the Bellagio during the week, Monday, Tuesday. I don't know what they are today. I'll have to check. Last night, I had a freaking monster roll, having a great time. But hey, guys, love the show.
Yeah, you got cut off there. Well, congratulations on your anniversary, David.
Yes. That's a great story.
We actually do have a similar story. He was asking if we ever had a situation where there was a jerk there. And sure enough, this was years ago, Mike. Gosh, this was at Fitzgerald's, which is now the D. This was probably in the 90s. And you and I were eating at the steakhouse there. Gosh, I don't remember much about Fitzgerald's Steakhouse. I assume it's kind of where the D Steakhouse is now. But anyway, we were eating there, and there was a gentleman eating by himself who called the waitress over and was complaining that his steak had obviously been microwaved. Now, that seems unlikely, but I mean, I don't know. Who knows? You'd think at a steakhouse, they wouldn't be microwaving their steaks, but he was convinced of it and made a scene. I mean, he really made a scene. And again, he was by himself. So we're trying to size this guy up and trying to figure out, what's going on. So finally, he works it out with the waitress and I guess, takes the steak back to get another one or something. And so then I called the waitress over and I said, I was fairly loud, I think. Don't you think, Mike?
You were fairly loud.
Yeah. I said, my steak got a little cold. Do you mind microwaving it real quick? Just same kind of thing. I don't know if he heard me, but it's just, he made such a scene about it for something that was probably unlikely. I don't know, but
I saw a pretty bad one recently where out at Harrah's Rincon, there's only 3 people per side on the table.
Yeah.
A guy walks up and he sits down in the chair, doesn't buy in or anything, takes the last open seat and just sits there and he's watching.
Yeah.
Well, a good at least 20 minutes, one revolution of dealers happened before finally one of the dealers said to him, if you're not going to play, you really can't sit there.
Okay.
And the guy just had a conniption. He said, well, what's it to you? And the dealer just politely said, oh, it's nothing to me. It's just a rule. He tried to explain to him, number one, you're taking up the only open spot on the table.
Right.
So the casino doesn't like that because they want,
it makes it look like he's playing. If somebody, doesn't really look and see that there are no chips there or anything. Yeah, it looks like,
somebody
no spot open.
By is like, somebody walking by thinks there's no spot to play.
Yeah.
Plus they've got to clean the whole spot.
Once he gets up, right.
Once he gets up, because he's been sitting there and, leaning on the table and touching everything. And he just had a fit. And I thought, what an a-hole. Yeah. I mean, come on, just stand and watch if you want. They don't discourage that.
Yeah.
And they politely asked him to leave. And, it was funny because then he started to say something and the pitch, all she said is, no, that's the end of the conversation.
Nice.
Yeah. She said, no, this is the end of the conversation. You're getting up.
Yeah.
He got up and walked away, but why are people like that?
They're born that way, Mike. I've got a theory.
Yeah, I know you've got a theory.
Yeah.
Well, we could probably come up with about 100 other examples that we've seen in a casino of some pretty weird things.
Yeah, and alcohol doesn't help.
Well, alcohol and losing are a bad combination.
Yes, well put.
Typically.
All right, next call.
Hey, Mark and Dr. Mike. It's Julio over in the Bay Area. It's been a while since I've called in, but great to hear you guys on a weekly or biweekly basis. But I just drove down from Reno and just wanted to give you guys a quick report. Pretty safe environment, everyone wearing masks, and things were looking pretty normal. Pretty packed casino went to, and I stayed at the Peppermill. You wouldn't know it that they were down in numbers, people not coming. I think people are coming to the casinos again. It was pretty packed. I'm not a big fan of that casino, but I went there. That's where my wife likes to stay because they give us some great rooms and the comps are good. You know, I had a bad rolls on craps, or I had a bad session, I guess. It just in general, I kept stepping out every single second or third roll. It was kind of frustrating, but what I did notice is that when you play at craps tables and they don't have bonus games or anything like fire bets, it starts to get really boring. It doesn't really give you a chance to give you that money back or hit that big number or hit the all-tall or something exciting. Anyways, just a thought. And then my second thing I wanted to mention was I only play craps and once in a while pie gown, blackjack, but I started playing some slots, and the casino was offering 7 times multiplier comps on slot play, and I tried asking somebody what that was, one of the workers, and he told me it was equivalent to, if you put $100 into the slot, it's equivalent to 7 times that, but I'm not sure. It didn't feel like it. I did earn comps quicker, but just wondering if you guys have some information on that. Anyways, keep up the good work. Thanks a lot, guys. Looking forward to your next episode.
Yeah, thanks. So what you were told, Julio, was basically correct. So if you play $100 through a slot and there's a 7 times multiplier going on that day, it's as if you played $700 through the slot. As far as your comps goes, that doesn't mean you're getting $700 worth of comps. Let's take an example. Let's say that normally if you played $100 through a slot machine, you would get 10 cents in comps that you could spend somehow. If there's a 7 times multiplier going on, you'll get 70 cents for that $100 that you played through. So that's basically what it is.
Right. They just multiply your reward points.
Right. Now, there are different kinds of multipliers. Sometimes they're multipliers on your tier points, as far as your tier status goes. Other times the multiplier is on, well, for Caesars anyway, they're called reward credits, the credits that you can actually spend like cash. And Julio actually followed up with an email too. He was wondering, in this case, it sounded like it was only slots. And he wondered if it ever happens with table games. Yes, definitely. In fact, I'd say most of the time when multipliers are offered, it applies to any game that you're playing in the casino.
That's the way it is at Harrah, Southern California.
Right. Now, there may be some little rules here and there. For example, at Harrah, Southern California, if there's a 10 times multiplier day on reward credits, that will apply to every game except, if you look at the small print, except video poker. It's usually half, and it'll only be 5 times because they figure, well, there's not as high a house edge on video poker as there are on slots. So sometimes, it'll depend on the game that you're playing. But always watch out for these promotions because sometimes it can really pay off. I think right now Sundays are the multiplier every week at Harrah's, and it's hard for me and you to get out there, Mike, on Sundays, but
right.
On days when we've gone for multipliers, oh my gosh, we have gotten so many reward credits that we can use to spend.
And also at Harrah's, the amount that they multiply by is sometimes dependent on your current status. So they have a thing where like 7 stars will get 12 times.
Mm-hmm, right.
And a diamond might get, say, 10 times, and a platinum might only get 5 times or something. Right. So they do it on that. So for a 7-star, let's say you're earning $40 a day. Well, 12 times that, you're earning $480. There's a big difference there.
Yeah. But again, Julio, that's exactly what it is. A 7 times multiplier just means you're going to earn 7 times the number of credits, comps, if you want to call it that, than you normally would. What do you think about what Julio said about bonus bets on the craps games, Mike, where, he doesn't really like it when there's no fire bet or all small tall or anything like that?
It's definitely way more exciting with a bonus bet.
Yeah.
Now, they don't hit every time.
Right.
And some people look at it like, well, I'm throwing money out there for something that, may only hit once the whole night.
Yeah.
But it's not just when it hits, it's when it's getting close.
Right.
So like on the fire bet, when you've made 3 numbers and then you come out on the 4th, you're thinking, oh, right, let's hit this 4th one because then, we have a chance for 5 and 6.
Yep.
For me, anyway, it's not just the times that it hits that are exciting. It's the times that you're close to hitting it too.
Yeah, and I don't make the side bets typically, but I still enjoy seeing them on a table. I'm interested in the math behind it, and I get excited too when you're getting close to winning one of them. So, yeah, I guess most players are disappointed when they don't see some kind of side bet at the craps table. Is that a fair blanket statement, most people?
I would say that's probably true.
Okay.
It might hold for every game in the casino. I mean,
that's true.
Table game, right? I mean, even they have blackjack side bets and people like that.
Sure.
My favorite on the blackjack is the bust 'em.
Yeah, I think that probably is the most popular, right? Where if the dealer busts, you get paid a certain amount, and the more cards the dealer takes to bust, the higher your payout.
Yeah. I mean, it's great when the dealer's already got 6 cards and they haven't busted and they have to take another one.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, come on, bust.
Yep.
A 7-card bust pays pretty good.
Yep. All right, let's hear from Franker.
Hey, Mark and Dr. Mike. This is Franker in North Carolina. Went to Harrah's Cherokee about 2 weekends ago. Kind of a big mistake because didn't realize when I went it was a big Valentine weekend for them and also President's Day. So the place had a lot of people. Friday night I got in and tried to get on a craps table, and they had 8 tables. 6 of them were open. And I waited about an hour for somebody to finally leave before I could get in on the spot. Sorry to say I did not win. So I went back the next day, and same situation. I had to wait about another hour, get on the table, and my Saturday morning didn't do very well either. So I didn't have a good time playing craps, but because it was a big weekend, I tried to get a room comped, and they would not comp me a room, which I've not had a problem before. But they said, we've got a sister location down the road, so they set me up at the Cherokee Lodge about 2 or 3 miles away. And it's just a standard little motel, which was not great, but I was glad my wife put up with it. So we did get a free room, but we had to drive up there to the Cherokee. Because I had to drive past it going to the motel, I noticed that they're building onto it. It's going to be twice the size when they finish. They had a motel tower that was taller than the one that's already there. They had a parking lot at the end of it that's going to be bigger than the one that's already there. And in the middle of it was, I'm assuming, the casino part. And that was a lot bigger than what they have now. So they are planning on doubling the size, at least, or more than doubling. Love you guys' show. I've been listening to you for now about 3 or 4 months. I found you, and going backwards, I'm down to episode 97. And I'm going to hate to run out because as I travel, I listen to you guys a lot. It's going to be hard to wait 2 weeks. So y'all need to step it up and do 1 a week at least. Love your show. Y'all take care. Bye.
Yeah, I kind of wish we could too, but there's just no way with our current schedules. We're lucky to get one out every 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's hard with the schedule. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And you'd get tired of hearing us every week. Yeah. Trust me on that.
That's right. Mike and I don't talk except for these episodes. When we drive up to the casino together, it's just silence.
Yeah, it's just silence.
So yeah, it sounds like a big expansion is happening at Cherokee. But I realized it was a busy weekend. But yeah, gosh, waiting an hour just to get on a table and then to have a terrible session, that's no fun.
No, I really would like to go to Cherokee, though.
Yes, I know. Cherokee,
and it's not
Biloxi.
just for seeing that casino either. There's a lot to do around there.
Yeah, we've talked about it.
It's kind of like a nice vacation spot, you know.
Yeah. Franker actually followed up with an email, too, where he went into a few more details about the trip. One of the things he mentioned was no cell phones at the table. He kind of told a funny story about somebody who kind of stepped aside to use the cell phone and the pit was yelling at him. But it's funny, isn't it? The inconsistency. Now, it depends on the property, but gosh, Harrah's
Right.
Southern California, no problem. Planet Hollywood in Las Vegas, you can use your cell phone right at the craps table, no problem. And then
Yeah,
other
but you walk
properties-
over to Harrah's in Las Vegas, they won't let you do that.
Isn't that funny? Same company.
Yeah, right.
So I don't know what they think you're doing. I can understand, no phone at some tables like a blackjack table or something. Maybe you're using it to count or something, but I don't know. I wouldn't worry too much at the craps table if I were the casino.
Well, especially card craps in California.
Right. Yeah, really. It's extra safety for the casino to have those cards.
Yeah, I've got my daughter on the phone. There's a 2 in the 3 position, and there's a 5 in the 6 position. What should I bet?
That's right. Well, I can see those myself.
Yeah.
All right, next call.
Hey guys, just want to call. I've got a very elusive story of a first-time casino poker experience. I bought in for 200 at a 1-3 game, and I was a little nervous, but I ended up getting check raised with pocket queens, and I went all in, and I ended up walking out plus 200. So it was a good night. Thanks.
All right. Well, good for you. It can be very intimidating to play any table game at a casino, blackjack, craps, certainly. But boy, when it comes to poker, there's that extra stress of being at a table where you're at war with, the other players there. It can be very intimidating, but gosh, if you can make that step, go for it, because once you've done it once, then, you'll find it's a lot easier.
Well, another thing too, as far as intimidation goes, you're also being critiqued a lot of times by the other players about how you played the hand.
Yep.
So let's say you play a hand and you've played it, quote, perfectly. There's still going to be somebody who critiques, I would have done that differently. Or you play it poorly and there's going to be somebody who said, you didn't play that right. You just got lucky.
Right.
So I think a lot of people, they're afraid of messing up, right?
Sure. Well, and
it's the same reason some people won't sit at third base at blackjack.
Or sit at a blackjack table at all.
Right. Or sit at a blackjack table at all because they're afraid that someone's going to critique their play. And that's just something you have to get over. I mean, you just have to blow that off and say, look, I'll play my hand the way I want.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The guy who check raised him, he had pocket queens, he said?
Yes.
So I wonder what the guy who check raised him had.
Yeah, I don't know. And I'm glad you brought that up, Mike, because poker can be a very humbling game. You can think you've got it all figured out, and then you just get wiped out. And in this particular situation, well, okay, the listener ended up winning, and I'm glad, he had the pocket queens. But what could have very well have happened was that his opponent turned over 3 of a kind.
Right.
Like, I've got pocket kings, I'm going all in. And then you're up against 3 of a kind, and you've lost your whole stack. So just be aware of that. It's a fun game to get into, and it can be nerve-wracking and, good for you for trying, but just be ready because, poker has a way of pulling the rug out from under you.
Yeah. If you played any poker at all, that you'll learn that very quickly.
Yep. All right. Last call. Let's hear from Joe.
Hi, Mark and Dr. Mike. This is Joe calling from Los Angeles. I just wanted to quickly tell a story about my last trip to Vegas, which now was over a year ago before the pandemic and everything. I was playing at the Downtown Grand, and it was early morning, so there wasn't a lot of action at the casino, and because of that, we had the pit watching our game as well. Anyway, I was playing a pass line with 2 come bets with double odds on everything, and basically I had the 4, 6, and 10 or something like that. Anyway, the point is not the 9. So the shooter rolls a 9, and my dealer takes my chips off of the 10 and starts paying it with 3-2 payment on the odds. And everyone at the table sees that this is a mistake. The pit calls it out. The other dealers recognize it's a mistake. I acknowledge I had the 10 after the dealer has already cut the chips and pushed them towards me. And so the pit asked me, he's like, well, do you want it? And so I, it's money, paid bet. So I took it. Dealer apologized, whatever, no big deal. And then, funny enough, a few rolls later, a 10 came up. And the pit looked at me and just says, don't even ask. So I thought that was kind of a nice payout for a bet that I really didn't make. And then finally, I also wanted to add a poker game variation that I played at a bachelor party. I noticed there was a really big skill gap between everyone there. So I want to play something a little more loose, I guess. So rather than having a cash game with poker chips, we played where you had to buy in with lottery scratch tickets, which made it a lot of fun. Everyone had different denominations of tickets you could bet, and it made it so things balanced out a little bit more. So even the big loser who bought in for $100 and walked away with only $10 worth of scratcher tickets ended up winning $50 on the tickets. So he came out okay. And the person who won the most ended up breaking about even after revealing some losing scratching tickets. So that was just a fun little variation that we had that gave a lot more excitement to the game. Again, not for a serious game, but for this circumstances at a bachelor party. It was a lot of fun. So thanks. Love the show and keep it up. Hope you guys are doing well. Bye.
I love that idea, especially if you've got some players whose poker skills just aren't that sharp.
Right. As he was explaining it, I was thinking, this is great.
Yeah.
I like this idea.
Yeah.
Now, you'd have to buy a bunch of scratcher tickets.
Yeah, buy a bunch of tickets ahead of time, different denominations, like he said, $1, $2,
Right.
$5, et cetera. But yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like a fun game,
Yeah,
actually.
I agree.
I don't know if our group of friends would like it so much.
Well, no, but again, because we play poker all the time. But if you're getting together
Right.
with, family members, said,
Right.
I've heard this poker game can be quite enjoyable.
Yeah,
maybe
you could
mix it up.
You could do that with your family instead of orange slices.
That's right. Oh, my dad and those orange slices. We would play bingo over at their house. And the prize, not only would you win, the money amount, we'd put in like, a quarter each game or something like that. You'd win the money and you'd also get one of those orange slices, right? Those real chewy ones, right?
Yeah.
So then my dad goes to see you because his tooth is bothering him. What did you find?
Orange slice all packed in it and stuff. Yeah. Oh, I was laughing so hard. And not so good when you go to the dentist with a mouthful of orange slices.
Well, he's off the orange slices. We bought a bunch of them. He hasn't touched them since he went to see you. So he learned his lesson.
Stick with Oreos.
There you go. Eat them right before you get in the chair.
Right before you come, yeah.
I like his story about getting paid on that 9 when he actually had money on the 10. It's kind of like you and your marching soldier because he made the right decision. The pit basically said, well, do you want to keep this money? Well, yeah, I want to keep it, right? I got paid for a number I wasn't on. And, it doesn't matter that the 10 came up later, right? At the time, it's the right move, even though if ultimately it wasn't the right move.
Sure. I've got a good craps story from a recent trip to Harrah's Rincon.
Okay.
It's just a strategy how the guy played. It's kind of interesting. See what you think of this. So this guy bought in for $5,000.
Okay.
And basically what he would do is he would bet $100 on the pass line. When a point was established, he would take $100 odds and he would make an $800 don't come bet.
Okay.
So let's say your point was 6.
Yeah.
Well, if the next roll was a 5, his $800 don't come would go on 5.
Mm-hmm. And
then he would put $100 on the remaining 4 numbers, 120 if it was 6 and 8.
Okay, so far, basically what it sounds like is the don't is covering all the other bets that he's making.
Correct.
Okay.
His $800 don't is covering his 4 other $100 bets, plus his $200 he's got on the pass line.
Right.
100 in odds, 100 on the line.
Yeah.
And then he would make a $100 come bet.
Okay, yeah.
So now if a 7 comes up, he's going to win the come bet 100. He's going to win the 800. He wins 900. He loses 600. He's 300 ahead.
Yeah.
If a number came up, let's say the next number was a 9, his $100 come would go up to 9. His $100 9 would pay 140. He'd put 100 odds and collect 40.
Right.
And then make another $100 come bet.
Right.
And if a number repeated, let's say the next number after that was 9. So he'd be off and on for $250.
Mm-hmm.
But he would add another 100 to the odds. So he would keep adding 100 to each time it came up on the odds until he got to the max.
Okay. All right.
And then he would just stay there. Meanwhile, having this $800 no bet on whatever the second number was.
Right.
And that was his strategy. He ended up winning when I watched him. he jumped up to about 10,000 pretty quick because what was happening is people were making like a couple of numbers, sometimes repeating a number, and then they were sevening it out and he was making, his money there.
Right.
Only a few times did it hurt him where the number that he had an $800 don't bet on repeated.
Right.
Then it got a little chilly and he went back and he got to where he was like at 6,000. So he was like 1,000 ahead and then he left, which I assumed when he left was kind of his strategy, like try and get ahead with a few not so good rolls. And if it starts to go bad where he's coming down, leave with a little bit of winnings.
Right.
Anyway, what do you think of that strategy?
Maybe if he weren't so aggressive, like with the come bets and increasing the odds, I'd kind of like it better if he just made all the place bets and then just sat back and collected every time. Because if that don't number repeats, that's the worst case scenario, right? Is that case. That would be bad. But then when he's being very aggressive with, pressing and everything, if a 7 does come up, the $800 kind of helps and maybe he'd win a little bit, but maybe he only breaks even. I'm just worried that, a couple of bad rolls where that don't bet is losing somehow.
Right.
I wouldn't be quite as aggressive with the right way bets that I'm making, but I'd love to see him play.
Yeah. Oh, it was very fun watching him.
Yeah.
I found it interesting. Now, it turns out he had good luck there, but when he's first doing it, I'm thinking, oh my God, you can get hammered. I mean, your $800 goes up to a 5 and the next roll's a 5. You've lost 800.
Yeah.
And he would then replace it. He would make another don't come bet.
Sure.
But if that goes up to a 6 and then a 6 is rolled, it can go sour pretty quick.
Yeah.
It's a very aggressive way to play.
Yeah.
Well, putting $800 on any one thing is pretty aggressive.
Right.
But anyway, I just found it interesting. So something for people to think about.
Okay, yeah.
And maybe you could scale that down if you were like on a $10 table or something.
I was thinking the same thing. Yeah. You don't have to play at those levels. Yeah.
Right.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. We want to thank some people for some recurring PayPal donations. James, Kurt, Robin from Anytime Gambling, and Justin. Thank you very much. Also, we got a donation from Rob. He says it's a karma donation for my end of March trip with my son, who will be 24 then. Comped stay at the Cromwell. I'll certainly play dice there. We hope to get to a few of the casinos we haven't visited in the past. Some 3-2 lower limit places like Ellis Island, as well as checking out Circa. Thanks for the fix you provide every other week. Well, thank you, Rob. Also, a donation from Troy. Love the show. Fun topics discussed by a couple of great guys. Looking forward to the upcoming poker tournament with you and all of the other listeners. Like Dr. Mike, I am a die-hard fan of the Padres. Sorry to Judge Dave and his fellow Dodger fans, but this is our year. Okay, so Troy's a Padre fan, and he knows Judge Dave.
Well, I'll tell you what, Troy, this is our year. Honestly, I think it's going to come right down to the wire. Now, of course, what happens in the playoffs happens, but I think those two teams are going to be duking it out the whole way.
Yep, looking forward to it. Also, a donation from Eamon. He says, karma donations have never worked for me, so this is an appreciation donation. Well, thank you very much, Eamon. Eamon's going to Vegas for March Madness, so
nice.
Good luck on your trip, Eamon. And finally, our buddy Adolf, a.k.a. Blair, he's given us a few donations just out at the casino when we've been out there, so thanks very much for that. Hey, be sure to check out our TV listing showing all the gambling-related shows coming up within the next 2 weeks at youcanbetonthat.com/TV-listings. And our listing of gambling-related movies at youcanbetonthat.com/movies. We'd love to hear from you. Call our voicemail hotline at 951-292-4377. That's 9512-WAGERS.
9512-WAGERS.
Or you can email us at youcanbetonThat@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at youcanbetonThat and on Facebook at facebook.com/youcanbetonThat. Finally, please go to your favorite podcast app and write a review of the show. We love getting your feedback. All right, Dr. Mike, tournament coming up. What else you got for us?
Well, not much. I was just hope everyone can make the tournament and it'll be fun. It's like a free ride for everybody.
Yep.
So, enjoy it. Don't go too crazy.
Yeah, don't be upset if your pocket queens are busted.
But it's just kind of fun to get together. And I'm hoping there's,
Yeah.
plenty of trash talk going around the tables. That always makes it more interesting.
That's always fun. I think there'll be some, unlikely rivers that'll anger a lot of people. That's always fun too.
Yeah, right. There's nothing funner than a river that sends you home.
Yeah, where you're like a 98% favorite or something.
Right. And all of a sudden you're out. You're sitting there trying to dip your tortilla chip in your hot queso sauce, and you can't even hit the bowl because your eyes are watering so much. I've been through that, Mark.
I know. I've been there for that. All right. Thanks for listening.
Good night.
Oh, sweet mother, I love you, Dr. Mike.